Charbroiled double deals from Carl's Jr. Pick one of three for only
$2.99 each.
The jalapeno double, the double cheeseburger, and the California Classic double.
Only $2.99.
Carl's Jr. Gigantic flavor.
Small price.
Available for a limited time. Price and participation may vary. Price higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Tax not included.
Blog Talk Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, leave it in the ring.
And welcome back to another edition of LIITR Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenez, with my co-host, Mr. Gabriel Montoya. So I got my side all fixed and all that. Like I told you guys, I was going to try to get things done here. Still, I have the echo, and that's because the room is still empty. Even though I went down this week to Discovery Bay, I ended up buying my claim wood. I'm going to put claim wood all around in the office and stuff. I see Gabriel's finally on and all that, but because I ended up taking his spot, so I apologize for that. I forgot that was going to throw him off a bit, and
it's fine, man.
Because I was panicking. I was like texting him, like, dude, where you at? Because I was waiting for you the whole time, right? So I wanted to check out my sound.
The funny thing about modern technology is like when you're picking somebody up and you're using your GPS and they're texting you, "Are you here yet?" and you're like switching back while trying to drive a ar back and forth. I won't throw my wife under the bus. She's never done that before. But it was this kind of situation. I was like, how am I going to get on? Oh, let me do the things, do the invite. But this is good. This is we got our sound back to where or close to where we used to be. You're still working on your studio there, I take it.
Yeah, man. So I think that tomorrow, because it says like 48 hours, have your, the wood that you buy, it's gotta adapt to the environment, right? So I picked up half on Saturday, thinking that was going to be enough. But then after I went back with my measurements, I started looking around. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to need more than that. And that's when I called the guy back, and he goes, well, because I was telling him, well, I'll come, next week, because Discovery Bay is like an hour away from me. And, and because of the weather was really, really bad, dude. I mean, it was terrible, and being on the freeway. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go next week. But he was like, listen, the wood that you want, the wood that you picked, it's going pretty fast. I'm not going to get it again. So either you want the bundle that you're asking for, or you're going to lose out. So I had to go back. And so hopefully, like I said, Tuesday, I'll start putting in this wood and slowly but surely start getting this podcast studio to where I want it. Right now I got have like a glass desk. I want to get rid of that. It's going to be a big oak desk that I'm designing, trying to get done and stuff, and then get my TVs up. That's the one thing I'm really kind of pushing for, is to get my TVs up, Gabriel, and my couch, so I can watch the fights here in my office rather in the living room, where I'm always interrupted by somebody. Family's always coming through the doors, stopping me. You know how many times I had to pause the Showtime fights, man? Literally 8 times, because somebody was talking, and I didn't want to miss any moment, even though there was moments to be missed in the fights, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the most exciting card in the world. It's the opening bout wasn't too bad, a good action fight, but Ortiz, Christian Hammer, that's the danger of heavyweights, right? It's like sometimes it just goes into a cruise, and you just kind of go, this is maybe somebody gets knocked out late, maybe somebody gets tired, but Ortiz to me seems like enough of a technician that he can get a little tired and manage it. And now that he's kind of had that big fight in the Wilder fight and he lost, I think he understands like not to overextend himself. He became a little more Cuban, I guess, and decided to play a little bit safer and just get that win. I know he wanted that exciting finish to kind of put himself back in everybody's minds, but Christian Hammer proved to be a little more durable, a little more dangerous, and kind of landing that right hand and willing to. I thought he got tamed in the back end of the fight, but he was still kind of always, always game, always possibly playing possum. I thought it was a decent fight. Castano Lara, I thought too was a good fight. It was competitive, close fight, but just when one style is trying not to have a fight and the other guy's trying to have a fight, that's not what I really want to see again. People are talking rematch. I don't know, fresh matchup. What do you think? You want to see that again?
I wouldn't mind it. I don't think Brian is ready to move up. I don't think he's ready to move on and try to go after the herds of the world. I think that Lara is a guy that, regardless of age, and regardless that some folks, including myself, I thought his legs were not the same anymore. He did slow down a bit, but the one thing that I think he still has is the awareness. He's very aware still of what he's doing, and I think he's very aware that the fact that age is there with him. Going to be 40 years old, and his legs don't work the same, and he knew that. And what he did is he put up his guard up very high. He allowed the younger warrior to open up on him, and he caught a lot of the punches with his forearm and his glove. And then he took his time to return it. I think that's what made it very competitive, is how aware he was in terms of stage of his age and his career, where we see a lot of guys that hit that 40-year mark, and that's it. They want to kind of believe that they still can bring up that youth, bring up that 20 years youth that everybody fell in love with, right? And that's where they fall apart. With Erislandy Lara, you didn't see that. He understood exactly who he was and what he can still do, and he decided to fight his age, which was use up the guard high and pick his shots and not get too. When he fought Alfredo Angulo, he tried to mix it up. He tried to get Angulo off of him, and I kind of expected him to do that with Brian Castano, and he didn't do that. I thought he was going to do that because the fact that he got stopped. He got dropped and hurt. A lot of folks consider that fight of the year, which I didn't. I thought it was a great fight, but I didn't think it was like a fight of the year thing. But I thought he was going to go in trying to prove something, and he tried for the short bit. But then he went back and said, "You know what? I'm not that young spring chicken. I'm a know the rooster. So let me fight like a rooster. Allow the guy." And I think the commentators were on to something, saying that they thought that Lara was waiting for Brian to kind of gas out, and he did it. And good for Brian to gas out, and he didn't, and he kept going out there, and he kept going for the KO. But I think that the inexperience kicked in after the mid halfway, because he did kind of leave the body shots alone, Gabriel, which I was kind of surprised, because it was very easy for him to touch Lara's body. Why? Because Lara's legs were older, and Lara decided to walk himself back and trap himself sometimes, where he covered up the head shots, not the body shots.
Yeah, I was surprised that he didn't. I expected him to pressure even more and close the distance and get in close, and just work more, He did at times, but then, like you said, that shot to the body, it was there the whole fight. It wasn't like there was an adjustment and suddenly it was gone. It's like he just stopped throwing. Even if it was getting blocked, like you kind of just keep going back to it because it was working. It was kind of one of those fights. It was like when it was called the draw, the boxing fan in me is like, let's go with the younger guy and give him the shot, give him the nod. But he didn't really make the case for himself all through the fight. There was times where he just went away and let Lara box. It's like, we know that's what he's going to do. He's just going to, do four-corner offense. Just move, hit where he can, land that left hand, and just kind of like display his offense. But there's not going to be a whole lot more to what you see in the first few rounds. And I just thought the kid didn't quite go for broke. He came on, strong down the stretch, but it was like the middle of the fight. I thought there could have been more done, So I wasn't that upset by the draw.
I wasn't either. Honestly, before even the draw, I was like thinking, man, this can go either way, or if the judges really kind of paid attention, this was kind of an equal fight. So when they announced it, I was like, okay, well, I can live with that. And it's not, it's not one of those you have to overly think, okay, who did what, who was more of a standout, and what they did in their boxing. It wasn't one of those, And it also goes back to, I think for Brian, that he's kind of lucky that Lara is a counterpuncher. He is a boxer, and he still understands that he is. Where a guy that kind of loses their legs tend to be more exciting because they want to stand and trade. They want to kind of convince themselves that they were something they never were. And Lara never did that. He still has the intelligence to say, hey, I'm not that guy. So I'm going to actually do the fundamentals of basic boxing, which is if I get trapped and the guy's throwing more punches, I'm going to cover up. I'm going to wait for him to finish with his flurry, and then I'm going to try to counter with one or two shots and then roll out. And he did that. And that's where it left for the younger warrior who should have been on top. And his corner was asking for that. I mean, I applaud his corner. His corner can continue to, hey, be on him. Don't let him breathe. Don't give him a second. Don't allow him to think. When you're a younger warrior and you go in there with a basic plan, which is to be the presser fighter, well, that's what you have to, be, because that's what you train for. For every minute, every round, you're training to be on top of the older guy that more likely can outbox you, whether he's 20 or 40 years old. And Brian learned his lesson. He took breaks. He decided to lay off on certain things that he was successful on. And, even though he kind of fell off of that, his corner at the same time fell off of it too. Because they should have really implicated that and told him, hey, man, go back to the body. You're successful. But they were looking for, Gabriel, was a big KO. And sometimes when you're looking for a very big KO because you're looking for a big statement so the fans can kind of like grab onto you and love you, is that you kind of blind yourself and what's the obvious that's in front of you, which was the body. Go to the body. The head would have fallen when you came down, when you came up to a shot to the head. It didn't happen, and that was one of the reasons. So that's a lesson learned for their corner and for Brian, as a fighter, is go back, watch the tape, and you could see there was opportunity, but you kind of let it slip through the gloves.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There was not that. What am I thinking of? Just like the urgency, like I said, it just wasn't there. The guy, he had spots of it, but especially like the game plan should have been break the guy down. Like watch the Hurd fight, see what he did correctly. Right. And try to maximize that. That's kind of plays to your strengths. So I was like, man, that's a tough fight, back to back. Come back against Castano. He's just a customer. But he's also doesn't have the hammer. He's not that guy that you have to watch out for that one shot. He's going to blow you out of there. He's kind of a grinder. You're gonna have to trade with him. And so Lara, I thought the kid was really good in that he wouldn't accept clinches from Lara. He wouldn't let him slow down his offense, but. Maybe some of that early effort also slowed him down, so that he was more than he wanted to.
Let me ask you this, because, even earlier in the telecast, they had mentioned that they watched tape of Hurd and what he did, how his performance was against Lara. Do you think that there might have been a little bit of ego in Castano's camp, that they were like, we're not going to follow that. We're going to do it our way and make it happen our way. I mean, I think that training camps and trainers sometimes kind of fall in that trap where they don't want to be recognized as the guy that follow the map of beating the guy that they're facing. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, you're breaking up. What was that?
I said I'm not quite following what you were saying.
What I'm saying is that you think, because in the beginning of the telecast, they were saying the same thing. They were saying that Brian Castano's camp should have been watching Well, they should have watched Hurd, how he beat up Lara. Do you think that ego kind of kicked in their camp, thinking that, you know what, we're not going to follow that plan because we want to make up we want to do our own thing so that nobody says that, oh, you guys basically followed Hurd, or, Lara was already, he was damaged goods. And so they didn't want to do any of that. Are you there?
I always tend to think people in boxing are like copycats, and that whatever success they have, like whatever's had on a guy, you're gonna jump on that. It's like look at like a top rank will pick to beat up on, like Mason Menard. Like all his losses seem to be the top rank guys at this point. And so I think like when you show weakness, people are ready to jump on you. So I don't know. I just think it's also the guy's first really big fight and toughest opponent. As a pro. I mean, they were talking about him beating Errol Spence in the amateurs, but it's the amateurs. He
Right.
beat Derevchenko in the World Series of Boxing in a fight that was pretty tough. And was kind of back and forth, and only a 5-round fight. I just think Lara's tough. And like I saw Dan Raphael today tweet. It's like getting on the early bandwagon or something. It was like, now that Lara's slowing down, he's a much more exciting fighter. He's now must-see TV. And what fight were you watching? Like, it really depends on the other guy that he's facing. Honestly, I didn't even think Lara Hurd was a great fight, much less fight of the year. It was maybe great for who it was happening to, but I mean, we've seen Lara be and Carlos Menlina. It's like, why am I supposed to get super excited about Jarrett Hurd? Finally, doing what other people have done. I mean, he beat the guy, but I don't know. I don't really. I know people. It's a trope in boxing. Oh, when a guy loses his legs, he becomes more exciting. That depends on his mentality. If he's like Juan Manuel Marquez, who's just like a gladiator at heart, a kind of pure technical boxer that's willing to get up 3 times in the first round against Pacquiao and then battle his way back to a draw by kind of sticking his nose in there a little bit, but then later kind of slow down and was in action fights. But we don't know if he's still moving backwards from the bell one and moving side to side and going to the ropes a little bit more than he should. He's not explosive off angles anymore. He's not like making you miss and making you pay as much. But I don't know if that's necessarily more exciting.
I don't know if it's more exciting, but but here's what I do know: fighting a Hurd, a Brian Castano, it still takes a lot of guts, especially at where you're at in your career. Sure. Are those really necessary fights that he needs? No, it's not. I think it's easy to copycat certain, things like you said right now. In boxing, it's very easy, and mostly that's how everything is done and stuff. But it's not that easy when you get in the ring with a guy that still hasn't kind of given up his fundamentals. Lara has not given that up. He still believes he's a pure boxer, still understands his strengths and his weaknesses, and we saw that Saturday night. That's what he did. Oh
yeah, I mean his ring IQ is among the very top in the sport. He's gonna be like Joel Casamayor. He's always gonna be a tough out. He's on top of being Cuban, pure boxer. He's a southpaw, so he's always gonna be tough. Is he gonna be exciting? Probably not. He's still gonna be Erislandy Lara.
I think later on, after everything's done, he retires. Give it a couple of years. I think he's gonna be analyzed as one of the great Cuban fighters. I mean, he did take on some of the best guys out there that was available for him that wanted to fight him, and he did. In his resume, I mean, you look at it, Paul Williams, Canelo, it goes on. I mean, the guy has fought some of the best guys that were there and never shied away from it. Was he the most exciting in those events, those fights? No. But you can't take anything away from him. He did fight the who's of his division.
No, that's the thing. I mean, just looking at his resume, it's like the guy. You can't take anything away from Lara. While I don't consider him the most exciting guy in the world, he's certainly willing to get in there. He understands who he is and that he needs other people. In order to get to that next level. It's just the nature of being a Cuban boxer. But yeah, taking on like a young guy like Terrell Gaucher, could have used that opportunity to cash him out, to get Lara out of there and catapult himself. Instead, Lara gets the win. He took on Yuri Foreman, end of his career. But Vanes, Jan Zavek, who's a tough dude, more not so much a 54, but and also kind of towards the end of his career. An aging Delvin Rodriguez, who's kind of having a 54 resurgence there for a second. Ishe Smith, Saul Alvarez, this is going back to 2014. Before that, Austin Trout, and before that, Alfredo Angulo. And then the first time with Vanes Margorosian.
Let me ask you this.
And Paul Williams, he's the guy that made everybody go think Paul Williams is over the hill, and that was 2011.
Exactly, but let me ask you this: if Erislandy Lara if he spoke English and was a trash talker like Pernell Whitaker, Hector Camacho, would his career at this moment be more appreciated? Because think about this: you have the Whitakers of the world, the Camachos of the world. Even like Adrian Broner, but I hate to put him in that category. But here's guys that were. Let me take out Broner really quick because Broner he's not a defense guy. He's just more of a mouthpiece. But the other guys I mentioned right now, defense guys, got the fights that were there. They took on the best. They took on the best available fights that were there available in their careers. You always knew that they were not going to be barn burners. There were going to be guys you had to figure out, and the other guy had to press for the action. Lara's in that position. He has been his whole career. Even right now, he's in that position where we know he's not going to, be in a barn burner unless the other guy cuts off the ring, puts on the pressure, and forces the guy that has a defensive mind to be offensive.
Yeah, I think if he was, a different personality, maybe even a different color, if he spoke English, think about, Winky Wright is a Hall of Famer. But
right.
Did Winky Wright face as many names
No.
as Erislandy Lara? Winky might get upset about that, but
he beat Fernando Vargas, which he did get the loss, right? I felt that he beat Fernando Vargas. He out-jabbed and kept Tino Trinidad humble with a jab.
He beat Bronco McCart after losing to Fernando Vargas, and that's Bronco McCart held the title, right? That's a guy that people kind of romanticize the past, like Bronco McCart. That's a real fighter's fighter, He's a 154-pounder, and just like a tough guy, tall southpaw, kind of brings it. But he's 56-11-1. You look at Lara, and he doesn't get talked about in those kind of hallowed terms, But you look at his resume and say he's fought a lot of dudes. Carlos Molina, a fight that a lot of people thought that he lost, and he got a draw, with Molina.
The king, yep.
But again, back to 2011, he was taking on tough fights that other guys didn't necessarily want a piece of, But at the same time, in the excitement factor, Lara has no Bronco McCart, He just doesn't bring it that way. And I've never seen him dominate somebody the way that Winky Wright maybe, dominated Trinidad. Not at the top level. It's always kind of nip and tuck.
No.
Like you said, he's always got to kind of fight for whatever round that he gets. It better be pretty clear, and he's dominating you with defense, not so much offense. It's been a tough road for him, and at 35, maybe the rematch is the best possible place for him to go. I'm not sure, it all, it's, I don't know what Castano's options are at this point either.
I don't think. Honestly, I think. What if you were? Let me ask you: if you were on his team, would you want the rematch?
No, I think you just hope that you get invited into Al's world, and that you're able to fight those fighters because Al's got, he's got quite a few 54s. Tony Harrison's there, Jarrett Hurd, but at some point, Castano and Hurd are gonna have a showdown here because they both hold that WBA title.
Yep.
So, we'll see how it all plays out. I don't have those unnamed sources that are going to tell me what date they're fighting next. That'll be wrong and get corrected in a tweet later. Now,
Luis Ortiz and Christopher Hammer. Hey, man, I got to tell you, I enjoyed the fight. I thought, though, with Ortiz, what happened with him was because of him, I think he had a flashback with Deontay Wilder. I think the Hammer did have something a little bit more than what they thought. They thought they were going to get a guy that had a good amateur background, was going to come in and maybe have a decent right hand, but has been knocked out previously before, was going to get clipped by Ortiz. End of story, we're going to move on. Instead, we saw 12 rounds. No, was it 10 rounds, right? 10 rounds, right?
No, I need to...
I think it was 10 rounds. Yeah. Anyway, so the rounds they end up getting, I think with Ortiz, what happened to me was that the Hammer nailed them and kind of made them rethink. And Ortiz went back to being a Cuban fighter, which was, keep his distance, box, and attack when the moment was there. Hammer was smiling. I mean, to me, he made the fight exciting. I don't know about you, but the fight was more exciting by his smiling. He started talking to him during the rounds. In between the rounds, he was talking to Ortiz, who I've always called the Lego brick with a face. But round after round, I started wondering, Gabriel, I don't know about you watching the fight. I was wondering, could Chris the Hammer pull this off? Could he land something big enough to drop Ortiz? Because it almost felt like Ortiz every round was kind of not really sure whether or not he was really the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. It just seemed like he was very tamed. Am I wrong about that?
I thought he was more measured. I think he's learned from the Deontay. You sit in there too long and believe in your power too much, and you can get knocked out, particularly at the top level, And so I think there was a little bit of that. I think Hammer hit him with some shots early on and just throughout that got Ortiz's attention. The heavyweight division is just a whole other thing. These are gigantic men. One shot can change everything, and everyone knows that. I thought Hammer, at some point he got kind of tenderized by the body shots, started to back off a little bit. He still kept kind of talking shit and smiling, but sometimes smiling is just, just shows that you're actually kind of hurt.
Oh, dude, he was doing the expression. Did you see that when he was like, oh, and he was like, man, that was a good shot. I mean, he was almost like he was in the fight, but he was also a viewer of the fight. You know what I mean? When a big shot hit, his reaction was like our reaction was like, oh shit, I mean, he made it entertaining. I don't know about you, but I like to see the Hammer back again on either Showtime or anything. I thought he made it a really fun heavyweight fight.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you got to see that guy again. He brought it, and he showed durability, which I think is
right.
Particularly with the heavyweights, are just like blowing people out. Like a guy that can go some rounds. You need that guy. You need that guy for seasoning. You need that guy to be a gatekeeper. You need that guy to push your fighter, the distance. So no, it's good stuff from it.
You have guys like Gerald Washington, Geraldo Washington. You have guys like Dominic Brazil and Christopher Hammer. Those three guys right now I just mentioned. Who would you want to see?
Well, we're going to see Brazil versus Wilder. It's what it seems
right.
like.
Right.
And Brazil always is in tough fights. I just, I'm like, man.
Brazil last couple of fights though, last two fights were pretty exciting. You got to admit. I mean, he showed some resilience, and he showed like he's got some heart to come back. The Anthony Joshua fight, I mean, he got kind of blown out, but I think he's kind of redeemed himself a bit, don't you think?
I mean, consider the opposition. he's got his legs back under him, I guess. We know he can't beat Anthony Joshua. I never thought he would. I just never thought he was that good,
Right.
I'm curious to see the Wilder fight just to get a measuring stick between Joshua and Wilder, get those common opponents happening. But also there's so much bad blood in that fight that I think that's going to be a good fight,
Yeah.
Styles make fights, and with Wilder, his defensive deficiencies are going to always make it so that there's drama in his fights.
Well, Wilder fights off of emotions. I mean, he really does fight off of the moment of what's going on, in the fight. He really needed to be rev up with Tyson Fury. I think with Brazil, you're going to probably see him kind of lose his head in the fight because there's so much backstory between the two, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's there could be a lot more emotion than Wilder would want and that his people would want at the fight. I just think it makes the most sense. Let's just get that fight out of the way and then figure out what's next. Now that Fury's thrown up that roadblock, we can kind of stop worrying about it. I always just point back to Pacquiao Mayweather. Don't spend 5 years wishing for one fight. Recognize the landscape for what it is. Look for the best available fights within each universe, because a league isn't going to happen anytime soon. I'm not going to grow old. I'm not going to be old Teddy Atlas screaming, "We need a national commission." He's just a crazy old guy that doesn't, do anything to actually get that done. The networks have no interest in that. The promoters have no interest in that. There isn't a promoter out there that says, "Yeah, it'd be a good idea if we all pooled our resources and shared the wealth." There isn't one that wants that to happen. They're all just businessmen trying to make money.
And there's no reason to. I mean, if you look at the business model of the way boxing is, there's really no reason. They're not kind of being pushed in a corner to change things. They
don't all agree on how to even develop a star. Al Heyman's now moving to pay-per-views. I mean, he did them with Floyd, but Floyd came with, as a pay-per-view guy.
Right.
Having done the Gotti fight. So but they're all their models. Like Al puts his fighters in places that aren't even near their hometown. He just does things completely. He builds kind of records as opposed to, resumes.
I think he handled his fighters the way he handles his concerts, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He looked at a new venue. It's a big venue. Nobody's tackling that venue. Let me put my artists there and generate, and people are going to come. I think that he's kind of because remember the what they used to parade around was that they were not going to do pay-per-view, but now they're doing it this year for 2019. I think that they understand now the boxing business is a completely different beast to wrestle with.
Well, then also, the number one thing I think everybody understands is that the sport's lifeblood are addicts. That everybody's going to watch whatever you show them. It's just there's a certain segment. Guys may age out. They'll watch it a little bit less. But those hardcore guys that are getting the subscriptions that have all the channels just to watch boxing, those guys will fork over the pay-per-view. They will buy and watch just about anything that you throw at them. That's why, we're not getting the best cards. Like DAZN isn't. There was kind of this promise of big stars, and they got some guys, but they're not all super exciting. I mean, this weekend will actually be pretty good, but eventually all of the products get a little bit diluted. They're not, and it's just because that's the nature of the sport. It's fractured. It's always been just kind of entrepreneurial, kind of capitalist. Every man for himself, and let me try to screw everybody, out of their fighter and build up my stable. And it's like it was ironic watching Golden Boy tell Floyd, "Hey, try to stop stealing my fighter." When they've done that. Although when Richard Schaefer was there, so maybe we shouldn't blame Oscar for the sins of. But Oscar was in that car apparently with in the limo with a suitcase full of money with Pacquiao. They've done it. Everybody does it. It's the sport.
Right.
You know, like you said, the model hasn't changed. Even if you try to say, "Oh, we're bringing everything to free TV," eventually you come around and you're like, "Yeah,
Right.
the real money's in pay-per-view." It's just the way it is.
And we've talked about that. That's why you're saying that because we've talked about that in private. And I agree with you. The formula, I think as fight fans we need to understand this. The formula is this, okay? The promoters, the networks understand there's hardcore fans. Those hardcore fans and complaining fans are always going to be there. And when I mean complaining fan, means this. You're going to buy up whatever they give you because you want to watch it whether or not it was good. If it's good, you're going to praise it. If it's terrible, you're going to show the disvalue that you had about it. You're going to say, oh, man, this was a shitty fight. In reality, we're the ones that keep this sport alive. They're telling you that the casual fans are the ones that keep the sport alive because that's all they care about. But the truth is that the casual fans is the extra. That's the extra dessert. We are the dessert. I hate to say it. We are the dessert. Because I've always said this. We're the abusive person in the relationship. No matter how many times you slap us around, we always come back. Because we always want to know if it's going to get better. Even though we walk into it knowing it's not. We always want to come back and see, is it going to get better? But if the casual fans come, it's just the icing. It's that extra icing. Because the icing's already us, but the extra icing is them coming along and saying, hey, man, let me see what these guys are talking about. And then they'll shit all over the sport. But they also know that we're the ones they're going to convince the casual fans. Think about it, Gabriel. We're the ones that are actually going to convince the casual fans that this might be the one that makes you a fan. And then we're also the ones that will tell the casual fan, this is not the fight, like McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. This is not the fight that's going to make it. But they're intrigued already. Why change the formula? It works. Their business has worked for hundreds of years.
I mean, just think about how much people trashed the PBC early on, and I was a bit on that train. And I'm still critical about Heyman because nobody's ever answered the question of like, how does he make those venue choices, and why build a guy away from his hometown? Are you only concerned with TV and like what is that theory? It's like I've heard the theory thrown out that we don't like Al Heyman because he doesn't talk to the media. For me, I would like to understand Al a little bit more. When somebody's a billionaire, as I believe he is, you don't want to know how they got there, and you want to know their methods, and their sources. What are they, what are they thinking in all of this? But a lot of guys, they trash PBC. They still talk about the Waddell and Reed stuff. They think everything was really shady. And none of these people are actually business reporters or know about finances. I bet, few of them invest, in stock or really like Wall Street timers, But everybody was says, the PBC is going to fail. And the PBC has a new deal. It's 2019. It's now a year past where I said, I know that remember I said like 2 years before, it was like, I know they have enough money to go through 2018. Here they are in 2019, new deal. They're getting great ratings for the most part. Obviously, like you said, the model didn't need to change that much. They weren't that much of a failure. People still want to buy boxing at the TV networks. And now, it's being streamed like crazy. But, are we going to get better fights? I mean, like last weekend's fights they're all right. I don't think it was really Erislandy Lara was supposed to be a good matchup. I thought Ortiz-Hammer was a good fight. But, are we getting the big fights? And are we getting unifications? Would that be bigger fights?
To me, boxing is it's like a wave. It comes in. It takes a little bit of sand. We're not happy about it. And it comes back in, takes a big old chunk of sand. We have certain years where we had like a roll of like great fights. Right now, when you look at the boxing schedule, for March right now, it's okay. It's not something like you're going to, jump up and down and say it's, I had coined it a couple years ago, when we had a great March, when we never did in boxing schedule. I said, this is like boxing's March Madness. You know, it's just one of those things with boxing is it just needs that one defined fight. And boxing understands that. Boxing has that formula. It needs that one defined fight, at least either once a year or twice, where it makes you believe. Let me ask you this, Gabriel. Do you think boxing in some way is like some kind of a cult? We're kind of brainwashed to kind of sit back and wait for that one moment that satisfies us, like a drug fiend, you know? We have to have that high. We're looking for that high again, and we want it so bad that we sit back and we wait. We do it every time.
Well, to answer your question, yesterday I was thinking about this idea that I'm reading this book about the early days of San Francisco. I like the birth of it. It's called The Barbary Coast. It's by the guy that wrote Gangs of New York. And I'm like, it feels like this city has never gotten out of the gold rush, you know, where people are just like they're coming here, hope their fortunes change overnight. You know, they've staked a claim. Now it's like, you know, the tech industry's here, and they have very much the same mentality. But the whole country is kind of capitalism to me is like that. That it's always looking for that new frontier, that new, you know, just growth at all costs. And boxing is very much like that kind of gold rush mentality, like you're talking about, of like, you know, they kind of build. It's like they mine a guy like Teofimo Lopez will be built into a big fight with somebody, but it's always like one company building their own storylines individually, and I just don't know if, you know, capitalism, I guess like the free market would say, you know, that's competition's great, and eventually, you know, Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman and Bob Arum are going to develop products so great, but you know, they're just, as we saw with Pacquiao and Mayweather, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good fight, because they both, right. Bob Arum and Heyman built these brands, but it's like, you know, it's been so long. We were like, oh, thank God, there's, you know, these cookies in here. These are my favorite cookies. I've always wanted to eat these, and then you're like, they're pretty stale, but you know, screw it. I'm pretty stoned. I got the munchies. I'm going to eat it anyways because I love these cookies. That's what they're very expensive. You know, very stale cookies. And so as long as the sport, you know, so we're always beholden to that hopefully that big moment where that big fight where guys are prime face each other. It's kind of rare. And the fights are never quite that good. I just don't know. I think if we did have a league, we should have Kurt back on to talk about his idea. He wrote this, like he said, is like this 15-page screed about a league, and Max Kellerman talked about it a bit. I didn't listen to it, but I saw people talking about it on Twitter. Right? Yeah. Today, yeah. But it's an idea that, you know, maybe should be pushed a little bit. Like I said, I don't want to grow old and be Teddy Atlas screaming about it. But like, you know, like a group like Transnational Ratings Board, which I still know what fake ratings, those guys, there's enough of them that if they all decided on an issue and started pushing it, they could get something done. I'd like to see that maybe happen, because
all I know right now, yeah, I mean, you're talking about cookies and all that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's just not a funnel, you know, for all the threads to run into each other on a regular basis. Like you're saying, like, it should be March Madness, like, you know, it should be a payoff that we can count on pretty regularly, you know, whether that's like the annual unification bout that happens as all the champions kind of work towards, you know, being unified in each division. And then, you know, the next year it's like mandatories happen or a rematch happens of a title fight, however you work it out, you know. I don't know if you could do a league with all four belts. Maybe all four belts makes it easier. And so you have conferences in a sense already, you know. But
I don't know. It's so fractured, though. I mean, it's so fractured.
Everybody's got to dip their beak, and the pool of money is only so big.
It's so fractured. I'm going to go back with Al Heyman, just really quick, because something that you were bringing up with Al Heyman. Even though you were bringing up, like, cookies, it made me remind me that after the show, I got to go buy me some pan dulce. You know, so I can have that with my coffee early in the morning, man. So thank you for reminding me that.
I do a little baking, and
what does that not surprise me?
My grandfather, I mean, anybody could do the baking that I do.
Right.
My grandfather, my dad's side, Ben Amin, would make like those Bisquick, like drop biscuits, you know, on the side. There's like a little recipe. And I've like, you know, I made some chocolate chip banana ones with a little cinnamon in them yesterday.
Oh,
that's what I'm
that
having
sounds
after
good,
the show.
dude.
Yeah,
that sounds really good.
You got to get out to San Francisco. You eat at my house. It's the best restaurant in the city. I'm telling you. But I digress.
My mouth is watering. My mouth is watering right now, dude. Seriously. But going back with Heyman, so the lawsuits. Think about this. In boxing, lawsuits it's not new, and it's not an unfamiliar territory. So when you see guys like Al Heyman, they're getting sued, it's not alarming and it's not urging. You know why? Because they can drag it out. Drag it out to whatever it comes down to. And guess what? Fight fans forget. Fight fans are forgiving. You know why? Because all you have to do as a promoter is put up another good fight. That's it. That's why the sport is so fractured. And I've said this before. Fight fans, we are an easy date. Every time out. We forget about all the other crap that was done to us. That's why with the app, you know, I was excited about the app and I got lost into the, you know, translation of the app, you know, about, hey, this is what they have to do because now the, you know, they're going to be able to see. Which app
are you talking about?
Any app,
DAZN?
ESPN Plus, DAZN, any app, you know, because they now literally have the numbers that are looking at who's watching and who's, you know, downloading to see these things and subscribing, right? It's like Netflix, you know. And I was into that because I was like, oh, that's perfect. But let me ask you this, dude. And anybody, you guys want to call in? I'm sorry, we're going to let people patch in because I see people just dropping off on the chart because we're talking too much. But 347-215-7598. How many people watched the DAZN fights this weekend? Gabriel, you watched it, and then you asked me, and I told you.
I watched the, yeah.
You must have
I watched the main event. I haven't watched the rest of the card yet, you know.
Yeah, and I told you, I was like, I didn't watch it because I really didn't care about it. You know, it's got to be intriguing. So,
and I'll be honest, I'm behind that Cheeseman fight from like a couple weeks ago. I still haven't seen that card yet either, and I need to. Yeah. I need to catch up.
I think a lot of fight fans are behind. A lot of fight fans are behind with this because of the fact that, you know what, you have to put better content. I mean, I think that even the UK fans are like, give us something better than this.
Well, the UK fans warned us, and we probably should have listened. They were like, Eddie Hearn's going to give you, you know, a lot of filler. And he's like, you know, you guys are all excited about Eddie right now, but wait a little bit.
And they did.
You're not going to be, you know, and you know, maybe they're right. And, you know, it's also... you and I have talked about this. Like, you know, we've been doing this 10 years. I looked on the Leave It in the Ring, like, all-time episodes, and, like, you started, like, March 1st, 2009. You know, so we're now, you know, and then, like, I joined sometime later that year, I think. But, like, it's hard to watch every single card and know every single dude. Maybe the older you get, or maybe the more married you get. I don't know, but
no.
Those DAZN ones you put off to the side. But it's also like I just don't have a lot of time left in life, and I certainly don't have a lot of time for. If I know a fight was bad, I didn't catch it over the weekend. Like I'm not going to go back and watch what I know is a shitty decision. Like, you know, like maybe if that dude ends up fighting for a title, I need to do some research, you know. But I don't know. Call me a casual.
Well, you know, the way it was back in the days, you had Tuesday night fights. I'm sorry, Tuesday night fights, right? And if a C-class fighter made it on there, that meant that he did something significant enough to end up on television to fight another B-class fighter. And guess what? It ended up being something special. And that might have gave him the opportunity of getting a A-class fight, which you already knew he was going to lose, but it gave him that much where it might have given you the imagination that he might have excelled into becoming an A-class fighter. Right now, what we're getting is a bunch of, just crap just thrown at us all at once. You know what I mean? Like you're just getting a bunch of paint thrown in your face, and you're trying to catch whatever color that's coming in your eyes, and you're trying to pick the best one. And I was afraid that was going to happen with apps. I was afraid that that's what they were going to do to fill up a lot of time and make you believe as a consumer that you're that stupid. And guess what? That's what they're doing. They think you're that stupid. They're like, oh, man, let's just give you everything, and let's just try everything, and let's just see if they're going to tune in. Dude, we're going to tune in the beginning, but after a while, everybody's going to say, like, oh, man, this is not even worth my time. You know what I mean? I have better things to do.
Kubrat Pulev versus Bogdan Dinu on ESPN, Saturday, March 23rd. That's I don't know about that. And Jesse Magdaleno versus Rico Ramos. Be an action fight, I guess. Probably be an action card. That's at the Hangar in Costa Mesa, which is a pretty great venue down there in LA, like Orange County. But yeah, it's like I said, but I guess would a league only filter through a couple channels? Then that maybe that's the only way to strengthen the talent pool. But
I don't know.
My big question of the week is, as Canelo and Jacobs get ready to square off, they had their three-city press tour, New York, Los Angeles, Mexico City. Which guy had the best suit? I kind of like Danny Jacobs' all-white Bond villain, double-breasted look. I wasn't really feeling the pinstripes too much. But I also liked Canelo's Steve McQueen, like the plaid suit with the black turtleneck. It was a fashion throwdown. What do you think of the matchup?
Love the matchup. Absolutely love the matchup. I got to tell you, man, I think this is one of the best fights of 2019. I'm still on the fence on who might win this fight. But let me ask you this. Let's how about we patch in some fight fans right now, some listeners right now here on Leaving the Ring, and just let them ask us questions or tell us what they think about what happened on the preview of this past week, or what's going to happen this week on Saturday.
347, you're live on Leave It in the Ring.
347?
Yes.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Kurt.
Hey Kurt. How you doing, brother?
Speaking of leagues.
Oh, you guys are talking about leagues. Yeah, what? It's funny because I'm editing the next podcast coming out, so I missed the first part of what you guys were talking about. So, yeah, man, let's talk about a league, dude. Let us talk about a league. I saw, Max Kellerman had something on his show where he was talking a little bit about why, the state of the game, and I'm like, finally someone getting to this. But yeah, I mean, listen, I had a modest proposal a couple months ago. I mean, you see the World Boxing Super Series. You've got all this money in the sport. You've got all these channels. It's a very unique opportunity because you've got all of these promoters, none of whom have a roster that is going to fill out a year's worth of good fights if they stay in-house. They all need each other, right? Yeah. You have the World Boxing Super Series, which kind of, they've said, they've showed us what boxing can be. You have the playoffs. You can watch the playoffs. It's exciting. It's awesome. It's like every other sport. It's not rocket science. So all this money, all these, four major players pretty much have the deal. They've got control of the money. Tell me that, can you guys not work together? They're talking about trading fighters amongst each other. Work out a tournament, Base it off of the
smaller promoters, like the infrastructure, the minor leagues, the developmental, like Find a way to get everybody well. I just don't understand why that can't happen.
Absolutely. Well, I think if you establish tournaments like every year, like take 5 or 6 divisions a year, and you just use neutral ratings, like the independent ratings, and create no barrier to entry, so that everybody doesn't have to sign with Eddie Hearn or Bob Arum. Like you can have a fighter who you can have a Triple G out there, who and Tom Loeffler's who can develop their own fighters. As long as they're fighting good competition and getting into the top 10, they get into the tournament. And you know what? They can win the tournament. And now a smaller promoter has a star. The bigger guys have to see the forest through the trees here. It's great. They're making a lot of money right now. They've got control, but every other sport gets a lot more TV money than boxing. Why? Because they have to sign one promoter who has just a piece of the puzzle. He doesn't have the entire sport. If you get together and give them the entire sport and great fights, like pretty much, if you do a tournament, it's 7 great fights. I mean, it's Top Rank's programming, PBC's programming, everybody, DAZN's programming, everyone's bitching about it because you have all these scrub fights. That would be 7 dates a year where you have great fights. If you have just one tournament on your network, just one,
right,
in one division, you got 7 great fights. If you take like legit top 10 guys, the top 8 guys, and make a tournament.
But Kurt, what we've seen with this right now, even if you have a tournament, it's falling apart. I mean, tell us, how do we fix that?
It's just money. I mean, it fell apart because I think they overreached a little bit. I mean, they got 3 tournaments going on the same network, and get this. I mean, I talked to David McWater about it, who he's pulling his guy out, Ivan Baranchik, and basically, these guys don't have a good, they didn't strike a great deal with DAZN apparently, and not only that, they don't even have a TV deal in England, so they've got like hardly any TV money coming.
Wow,
that's nuts. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. DAZN was like throwing, they're like, just raining money on the sport. I mean, I got a little inside baseball on this, and like, I think with the junior welterweight tournament, if you won the junior welterweight World Boxing Super Series, all in, you'd make about $3.5 million. So if you kind of extrapolated from that entire tournament costs maybe between $25 and $30 million. You're telling, I mean, that's not even one Canelo fight. That's not even one side of one Canelo fight. You're telling me they couldn't have got that out of the zone? I'm just kind of incredulous.
Do you think that zone though might have like, you know what? Hey, listen, we'll buy into it. We're not going to give you a lot though, because the back end are thinking, we have all this back end of money. Why give them that? We can make them disappear and then pick up after they leave, after they've done. You know what I mean? After we've kind of let them kind of dissolve. And then we can pick it up and start our own league.
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think, if the World Boxing Super Series negotiations with, like, ESPN and all that are any indication, I mean, Showtime was willing to negotiate. I mean, they negotiated with them, but there was a problem with branding.
Because my experience with boxing is this, that, it's a gimme game, right? Where why am I going to help you out? And I was very surprised when the zone was like, hey man, World Series of Boxing, let me jump in there, which I was happy about because I was like, okay, cool. But what I've seen with people in boxing, in the business side, it's like, hey, listen, I'm going to help you, but there's an arm and a leg and a head and a chest and a back and an ass I have to take in order to be there for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know what the how those negotiations went, or what the World Boxing Super Series was asking for, or what role Eddie Hearn played in that.
But Kurt, you don't need to. I mean, you've been in the negotiations before. I mean, you got to admit that's just the way business is. There's no such thing as the big guy wanting to help the little guy to move up to be a competitor. The big guy always says, hey, man, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you for a minute, but I'm also going to help you kind of step on yourself where you disappear so then I can step in and kind of
Well,
picked up.
Maybe. I mean, listen, DAZN was a network that was starting from scratch, and they're trying to put programming on there that's going to attract subscribers. I would think, the World Boxing Super Series would be a pretty valued property. I really don't know why they would want to short them unless because a lot of the tournament is going on in Asia and Europe, so maybe they're thinking
Kurt, they have the budget to create their own world.
Well, maybe they were operating with faith though that somebody on the World Boxing Super Series they're putting the BS in WBSS or whatever, but that they were saying that they were going to have TV rights, that they didn't come up with. Maybe that's part of the problem.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
mean, you seem to know, have sources on this better than I. But I just don't understand it. Yeah, why you wouldn't throw a bunch of money at it? Because it seemed like they were jumping on the bandwagon of something that boxing fans had readily embraced.
Absolutely.
Were very excited about it, and it had authenticity was part of its brand. It's been a bummer that it's had such a problem. So what's going to happen with that?
It's a bummer.
With Branchik pulling out.
I don't know. I mean, listen, they still have that date. They still have him on schedule. They haven't gotten a replacement opponent, and I saw an article on Boxing Scene where he's training for the fight. So I think hopefully they'll mend fences and they'll get it done. I mean, my sense from David McWater, and I don't blame him. I mean, as a manager who sent, fighters overseas myself, I mean, the last thing you want to do is go over there and not have the money secure and have to go, chase the money over in Europe, hire lawyers in Europe, go through their court system, which you're not familiar with. And, your fighter goes over, fights, and then has to come home and doesn't get paid. I mean, that's you just can't have that happen. So, apparently after the first round, I mean, in fact, there may be some guys who still haven't been paid. I don't know. I mean, that was the rumor, at least, a couple weeks ago, that the win bonuses or even guys who lost still haven't been paid. So yeah, there's, he's just not, he's just like, listen, I'm not going to risk my guy who now has a world title over there, go over to Scotland, hostile territory, and fight and then not get paid. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to put that money in escrow and, satisfy us before we go over. So that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone else is in for, as far as I know, like Prograis was talking about pulling out, but apparently he's in. So it's just Baranchyk, and, all signs point to they're still trying to work things out. So he's not like out, but, David seemed pretty resolute that he wasn't afraid to pull him out.
I hope that fight comes off, man. I'm Prograis is my guy. I really like that guy. I love the way he fights. I love his style. I've never interviewed him or anything, but I just, just pure fandom. Really enjoy watching him. I want him to emerge as the guy coming out of 140 tournament there, so he can take on the gentleman down here.
Ramirez,
yeah. He's got to give him a reason.
Those are great fights. All those are great fights. I mean,
really good
Baranchyk and Taylor. Baranchyk-Taylor would be a tremendous fight. Prograis and Relic. I mean, Relic comes to fight. I mean, he's the warrior.
I love that guy, dude. I love that guy.
Those are just juicy ass fights, man. Those are great fights. And then you got the winner coming. You've got Ramirez, who's never in a bad fight. So, man, yeah, it's exciting.
Sure,
it's exciting.
Relic just looks like a dude that's not supposed to win the fight, but he wins the fight. He's awkward and just it's like my other guy. When that guy's on, it's like, oh yeah. It's time to watch. Who do you like this weekend? Are you going to the fights in Turning Stone, Verona, New York there?
I am not. I was at the fights in Barclays this weekend, but I love Brian Castano. I actually recruited Brian Castano back in the day. I really wanted to sign him, but I wasn't able to do it. But
so what did you think about his performance?
It's funny because he's a really short guy, but he likes to box from the outside. He's not as comfortable coming forward, and when you're coming forward and going at Erislandy Lara, it's not the easiest task. I thought, I kind of agree with the consensus. Lara might have lost a step a little bit, and Castano didn't quite take advantage of the moment, wasn't quite busy enough. I thought a draw was fair. I had it a draw. I sat with Bryn Johnson Butler watching the fight. He had Lara winning 7-5, but it, could have went 7-5 either way. Draw. I thought it was fair. I
mean, I don't know if you were listening earlier. I was saying that, you know what, the thing about Lara is that even though age is there. I mean, you have to look at that. Age is there. I mean, he's not the same guy. He's not as mobile. But, Kurt, I mean, the guy still understands what he brings to the table. He was putting up his arms high. Any times that Brian decided to open up and throw some shots, he was catching them with his glove and his forearm. Was he able to get out of the way with the flurries? No, he wasn't. But he was able to keep himself safe at moments.
Right.
Brian just, kind of dropped the ball not going to that body because he was very successful at that. But I'm going to go away from that. I'm going to change the subject really quick on you. Michael Bennett just was on the first episode of Losers on Netflix, which I loved. Right. I thought it was phenomenal, man. Super. I called both my sons to kind of come into the room because I wanted them to see, me, myself, Dad. I didn't live through them, and I didn't do half of the things that Michael Bennett's dad did. You talk about an era that's kind of weak. Where do you think Bennett would have been at this moment right now in the heavyweight division?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, Michael Bennett was a really, really good amateur. And then it was shocking when he lost that first fight and people just kind of, wrote him off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a hell of a fighter. I mean, you saw what he did to Tommy Morrison. The problem was, and I'm surprised they didn't go into this, and maybe Ben just didn't want to talk about it. But the rumor was before that Herbie Hyde fight that he had sparred with Riddick Bowe or he'd sparred with some fighters in New York, and he got knocked out like cold, like in sparring. Like he was hurt before he went into the ring with Herbie Hyde. That was the rumor, That was the rumor.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I mean, let's say, Tommy Morrison type, Michael Bennett. I mean, listen, I think he'd definitely be a top 10 guy. I mean, the heavyweight, Herbie Hyde was a pretty small heavyweight, and Michael Bennett was a pretty small heavyweight. So dealing with guys like Wilder and Fury and Joshua at the very top would have been, a tall order.
I mean, because you've been around, 25 plus years in the sport.
Right.
Do you think that fighters earlier in your time when you were like watching the sport and learning from the sport were kind of put in a little bit more in a test mode before they got into the ring or in comparisons of now, where everybody, even in sparring, like they're more protective?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think, as the old school trainers kind of died out. I mean, the next podcast, Winging Your Way, by the way, is Buddy McGirt, and we were talking about this because Buddy had an old school trainer, and he used to spar every day. Like at Kronk, they used to spar every day, back in the day. So, there wasn't as much attention paid to, the cost you're paying down the line. It
Which
was
I
like,
think,
we are toughening you up now.
Yeah, I mean, it was a more go for broke, aggressive, all out kind of, aggressive style that was needed. I wonder if that led to I don't know, like they say that brain damage, the guys become kind of aggressive afterwards. Like I wonder if it kind of was like a self-perpetuating thing.
Right.
The more aggressive they are, particularly I watch now the gym I train at. Little kids sparring and kind of going at it. We're everything, but should kids be getting hit in the head like that so young? Like, what's the age? I mean, isn't it 23 is when our brain stops growing?
Right.
It all kind of
these were things I don't think obviously back in the day,
thought about
the 80s and 90s. Yeah, you didn't have that kind of science. But I think even in the 90s, by the 90s, the American Medical Association was calling for a ban of boxing and.
I think it's a series of things, though, Kurt. think about this, okay? Like what Gabriel just mentioned right now, but like you hear people say that ghettos never change. They do. Because there's certain ghettos that, when I was growing up and before that, right, in the 70s, I was growing up in the 70s. Before that, ghettos were more like, hey, we're trying to get out of this situation. Where now, the ghettos now is like, well, we're here because it's by choice. We want to be here. We want to be we're against the government. We're doing this. I don't see the same fighters I used to see back in the days. I see fighters that try to correct when you're in a situation, you were trying to correct your craft because that's all you had. You know what I mean? That's all you used to have there. Where right now the outlet is so many different things. I mean, you could sit at home and have an income coming in at home because this is what you're allowed to have. Where back in the days, like my dad, my grandfather, you didn't. Either you worked and you ate, or you didn't and you didn't eat. Right. We got a lot of calls right now, just piling up right now here on Leaving the Ring and stuff. Kurt, he does a podcast here on Leaving the Ring. Really good interviews, very entertaining. And Ring, yeah, man.
Congratulations on that, Kurt. That's really cool.
Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, well, hey, hopefully it gives us more exposure to Leave It in the Ring,
Yeah,
outlet
absolutely.
for people to check out this podcast that you guys are doing and mine and Evan's. I mean, it's all good stuff, man. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, man.
While we're all here, I just want to point out Efe Ajagba versus Amir Mansour. I think this is going to be, just pencil this one in. It's a heavyweight fight on Fox Sports 1, 8 rounds on that Dignity. I'm not used to this. Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. Just something not right about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're negotiating the naming rights, I mean, yes, the number one consideration is money, but come on, man, when you're the home of like the wars in boxing on the West Coast,
some of the most savage fights of all time, Dignity Health Sports Park.
Come on, man.
But that fight's going to be all action. Efe Ajagba, just Google his name and watch the knockouts reign. It's very exciting.
Very exciting prospect. Well, all right, guys. I'll let you guys get some other callers in, but always a pleasure, and great talking to you guys. And I got one coming your way,
brother.
So get ready to post it.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Always. I can talk to Kurt, dude. I can talk to Kurt all day. But let's patch in some fight fans have been waiting for quite some time here on Leaving the Ring, Gabriel.
917. You're live on Leave It in the Ring.
Yeah, Dave, it's Amilcar. How you doing, guys?
Amilcar, how you doing, brother?
How you doing, man?
I was surprised to see you guys back on last week. I got the podcast. It came up in my little podcast feed. You guys have been on for so long. It's nice to have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. It was like September.
Man.
It was the rematch between Triple G and Canelo.
I know.
I think it was the last.
We finally decided to go off on strike. We were on strike for a minute, but we came back.
It was a while ago. Yeah, a lot has obviously happened since your last show, but
HBO.
Did you guys discuss like the Fury signing with ESPN?
We did last week. Yeah.
I'd love to hear your talk.
Well, it's the thing between you viewing it from a fan's perspective and a fighter's perspective, right? I was discussing it with someone at work who was pretty upset about it, and because he just felt that now, the rematch with Wilder isn't going to happen. But if you think about it from Fury's perspective, he pretty much carried the entire promotion the last time. I mean, Deontay did his thing, but it was pretty much Fury that was making that thing entertaining for as long as it was, the pre-fight stuff. He made the fight entertaining as well, getting up from the knockdown, and just from a business standpoint, Deontay made more money than he'd ever made before fighting Fury.
So hold on.
Hold
on, really quick.
By multiples. Pardon me?
I mean, just really quick. I want to interrupt that really quick. So he made it entertaining getting up. So you mean that Wilder never made it entertaining? Never made you like at one moment think that he was going to land that one big shot?
Or were you just talking about the promotion?
Yeah, I was talking about mostly the promotion. Wilder's fights to me are always entertaining for the same reason. You know that he can end the fight if he lands a clean punch. And if he lands a clean punch...
the fight, you know what I mean? In the fight, the motion of the fight, you know, you have to sit there and go like, okay, Wilder has to, might land this big shot. I mean, that's why most folks tune into it. You know, I get what you're saying about Tyson, and I get what you're saying that your coworker was saying, but you didn't tune in thinking that Tyson was going to completely outbox this guy. You tuned in thinking that Tyson could possibly get dropped and knocked out by a guy that doesn't box very well.
I tuned in to see how long Tyson Fury would be able to kind of outbox Deontay Wilder. And the thing is, look, like I said, he's exciting.
So they both sold the fight, though. That's what I'm saying. They both sold the fight.
They did, but here's the thing. From a business standpoint, right, and I'm not one to talk about, purses and all of this other stuff, but I am in this case. From what I understand, Deontay made quite a lot more money fighting Fury than he had fighting anybody else, right? And Fury's made money in the past fighting, which he should have, exactly. But now, if you're Tyson Fury, do you accept the 60-40 split for a rematch, thinking that you had already won the first time?
Well, I wouldn't. He didn't, though. But he didn't. It was a draw.
Yes, I know, but now, okay, we're getting down to my kind of logic of thinking here. If you're Tyson Fury, you wouldn't accept 60-40 split in Wilder's favor, which is what I understand was in the rematch. Yeah, you'd want at least parity. And from his point of view, he was always going to be a B-side fighting on Showtime, right?
Yeah.
So he kind of wanted a network behind him. He was always going to be a B-side fighting on DAZN, right? I mean, the promoters, everybody else are always pushing the A-side in those fights.
Okay, but here's the 60-40 split. Deontay Wilder dropped you twice. You didn't drop him once. That's my 60-40 split. You know what I mean? You survived. You didn't drop Wilder once and made me believe that you could knock him out or beat him. So, I think that Deontay Wilder and his team deservedly believe they should get 60%. Why? Because Tyson, you got dropped. Just because you just because you got up like Michael Myers in Halloween doesn't give you the upper, you know what I mean? The upper percent. I'm sorry, that just doesn't work for me. You know what I mean?
In the end, the proof's in the pudding, Dave. I mean, they didn't do a 50-50 split. The negotiations were going bad. Tyson Fury decided to sign with ESPN, and here we are.
Right? I know that because you know what they did. They said, you know what? Hey, we deserve more. Which in reality you don't. You should have got the exact same amount, 60-40, if that was a given, 60-40, or even 70-30. Because the fact is that you sold it on 10%. Give me 10%. I sold it more on a rematch.
Well,
I got it like the Halloween.
The details of Fury's, is it a guaranteed contract? Like what are the terms of it? Do we know?
I don't know.
Or is it just more?
That's a good question, Gabe. I don't really have the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean he's got guaranteed fights. I know he's got like 2 guaranteed here, broadcast on ESPN a year. So yeah, I mean, I think he went for what a boxer could call a secure future.
Yeah.
Yet another reason for a league. There's no bare minimum a boxer makes, regularly that, by some sort of law or union rule, you got to make it when you can get it. And all that stuff about, giving away his money to the homeless, I don't know if he's done that or not. when he was saying he's going to probably, retire poor or whatever. I think he's a businessman at the end of the day, like you said. It's, it's not about what the fans want, the short money, which is what the fans always want. It's the long money, Maybe that fight will come around. If Deontay's a network free agent, maybe that fight can come around. But I just don't see how that would be advantageous to Al Heyman, unless it's a pay-per-view and they think they can do big numbers on a pay-per-view. But then they do a ESPN Fox Sports pay-per-view. That seems weird.
Yeah, I'm hoping it comes around too, but this is what happens when kind of negotiations fail, unfortunately. And then we as fans or whatever, we end up getting into these silos, blaming one fighter over another. I am a little disappointed by it, but we'll see what happens. I want to give it at least a fight before I pass final judgment on it.
He didn't feel needed, though. Fury. Like you said, like if you felt you won and most of the press feels you won. But I don't know. Like look at Triple G. It's, it's feeling like you won twice as good as actually winning twice. It isn't.
No, it definitely isn't.
Maybe it is for Fury, but he definitely connected with America. I think, he was on Joe Rogan. He was, on all the shows. He was the guy kind of carrying it early on, and especially.
And I think
maybe
that's why more people
reaching,
are more sympathetic to him right now, right, Gabriel?
Well,
I think
his whole depression thing, in America's in the midst of the opioid crisis, maybe people could relate to him. I don't know. People like that story of redemption. America loves the underdog, and he's a white guy, and they love it even more then. So I think Tyson did the right thing. He took the money.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, absolutely. Gabe, I had a question for you. You're always pretty even-handed when it came to kind of analysis of the PBC and what they were trying to do. A year later from, like, your last show, at least the last one I fully listened to, like, what's your report? Like, what grade do you give them in terms of how they're doing so far with their cards and their shows?
That's a good question. And it's the same person that said, to me, like in late 2016, I want to say that the PBC, were funded at least through 2018, marketing wise. They had just invested. Was also the same guy, same source that said when the lawsuits dropped on Al, that he wasn't surprised. He's past all that now, and I think he's even past the Waddell and Reed watchers. The people that are saying that it's a Ponzi scheme or that it's some sort of sham by Al Heyman. I think it was possibly an attempt to monopolize the sport, but it's not different than what wants to do, or if Bob Arum could do it, sign all the talent. Everybody wants to do that. I think they did squander some opportunities. I think they could have made better fights. So I wouldn't give them an A. I'm not sure what grade I'd give them. But, they've got the new, Fox Sports 1 deal going. That seems kind of exciting to me. It's a broader audience. I'm kind of like not the greatest
but if you
critic
look at
of TV because I don't watch TV. So I don't have the TV on. So I can't say I was watching this other sport because I don't watch other sports. And they were doing commercials for boxing, so I couldn't tell you and I don't go to bars and watch sports. So other people would be better, like Evan aficionados to be able to tell you how well they're marketing. But I think they're a brand that's here to stay. I don't think they're going anywhere. And then another network invested in them backs that up.
I've actually been pretty impressed by the Fox telecast, to be honest, from strictly production value standpoint, and also the commenting has been decent.
Yes.
Well, let me put this here. You look at Top Rank and you look at Don King and all them, right? In the beginning, when television came around, it took them a while, right? It took them a while to kind of get you going and get in those good fights. If you look at the overall what Top Rank has done compared to what PBC, you can criticize a lot, of what Top Rank has put on television compared to what PBC has done. We're looking at PBC as you know what I mean. We're putting them under a microscope right now at the moment because it's such a baby company, and we're expecting them to have major results. And we talked about this earlier. This is a very fractured sport, where you're asking major corporation, major business or businessmen to try to sell us something that it's very easy to sell to fight fans because fight fans are so forgiving. Fight fans are addicts. They just want the best that put in front of them. You can have shitty fights all 365 days, but give them 2 good ones or 1 good one, and they forget about it.
Look, if I'm going to rank them, PBC, ESPN Plus, and DAZN, I mean, my 1, 2, 3 is probably going to be PBC, DAZN, and then ESPN, like, way behind. I mean, I just don't really see them doing all that much. ESPN was doing great, though. Think about it. 2018, in the last couple of months, like 4, 5 months. I'm just thinking of it this year, though,
right.
David.
This year, this year we haven't done, it's like, man.
I mean, their biggest fight is Khan versus Crawford.
And that's pay-per-view, though.
Is it not? Yeah, that's their pay-per-view, like, flagship fight. That's not a good fight.
But that's pay-per-view, though. I mean, we can't even put that. We can't even really put that on the ESPN platform or, anything else. I mean, DAZN or anything. That's pay-per-view, though. That's a pay-per-view platform.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just speaks to how bad the rest of the quality of their broadcast is going to be this year.
But it also speaks. Well, I mean,
in fairness,
too, like how bad they were saying, like they were going to get rid of all of that because it just wasn't the DAZN that was talking about getting rid of pay-per-view. Al Heyman was saying the same thing.
Oh, you mean with the free TV stuff?
Yep. It just kind of tells you that they can't get away from that.
I purchased ESPN Plus, right? I actually was probably one of the few people that paid a whole year up front. I'm not even doing it month to month. Realistically, what boxing am I really getting that's good boxing on ESPN Plus regularly? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm getting a lot of the foreign fights that I used to watch on YouTube for free anyways.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Like the stuff from Japan, the stuff from England. Like, I used to fucking watch that stuff on YouTube. A lot of times you could find live streams.
Right.
Well, I'm not really getting much, like, high-quality local replacement for Boxing After Dark or HBO World Championship
It's not
boxing.
new content. You're not getting new content. Now, we talked about this last week. We're not getting new content. You know what I mean? I mean, at least with ESPN Plus, you have other stuff that you can kind of fall on to and watch, right? Documentaries, mini documentaries, even other sports that are kind of interesting that I do watch. I'm not like a big baseball fan, basketball fan, but I'm very intrigued. Like if there is a corruption in terms of the mafia got involved, I watch that kind of stuff. And I think that they're adding to that. I'm sorry, Gabriel. I think I cut you off, bro. You're going to add some stuff to what we're saying, so I'll let you go ahead and do that.
In fairness, the Lomachenko versus Richard Comey was going to happen, and that was going to be a good fight on ESPN.
Oh, that was going to be a good fight. That is true, but the injury happened.
Yeah, but that injury happened. Which that's I don't know. It feels like we got Anthony Crolla in there. If you had a league, you'd have to actually fight for your rankings. I mean, not to say that Anthony Crolla didn't, but I just don't feel like that fight is. It just feels like the mismandatory kind of thing. I don't know. Having the plus is all that great. But
how do you work around the injuries, though, Gabriel? I mean, if you had a league, like you just mentioned right now, so how do you work around those injuries?
Well, I mean, in this case, I think they just, the way they worked around it was, that he's just fighting the mandatory. So I guess it would be the same thing because it was going to be a unification fight, So I guess that's the way you would do it in the league.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, guys, look, I mainly called to thank you guys for coming back and to tell you about that loser thing on Netflix. But when I called in, it sounded like you were already talking about it. But I thought the first episode and even other episodes are really good, but especially the boxing one with Michael Bent.
Yeah. And Michael Bent is, I met him, that used to be my gym, the gym that he's training in. It was Fortune Gym. And it's become a very popular gym now. Like I went down there the last time. Like when I went there, there was not a lot of people. There was some actors that would go there.
No.
There was a old like manager of like Robin Williams would
you
train
actually
there.
recommended me when I went down there, Gabriel. When I went
it's
to
a
LA,
beautiful gym.
Yeah, dude. I thought like 2000. I think it was 2010. You told me, hey man, go check out that gym. I went there. I met Justin. And I met a bunch of fighters that were going down there. I mean, that was not a gym, and you were training there. You were going to Freddie Roach's Wild Card and Fortune. You were jumping back and forth at the time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, I started at Freddie's, and then after about a year and a half, and then like riding the mail back by all his fighters. So I was like, I'll go to the polar opposite, which was like when Justin and Freddie were not talking at all because of a dispute over monies in the Pacquiao's fight before De La Hoya, when Freddie was getting De La Hoya ready for the Mayweather fight. And that's how Justin started his gym, was the monies from trading Pacquiao during that time. And it's this whole thing. So I went, and there was like nobody there. He didn't really have any pros. Now it's like the Hollywood gym. But I met Michael there. And there was a time when I was getting ready to fight a guy that writes about boxing who shall remain nameless. Michael actually showed me a move that I still practice. That he was like, "Oh, you want to use something? Let me show you." I had told him the situation. He's a great
It wasn't
guy.
the guy that was making. I'm just gonna say this. Was it the guy that was making? I'm not gonna say his name, but was it the guy that was making false credentials?
No, Michael Bent is awesome. I thought that show was awesome. I love the animation, just the whole storytelling, all of it. It was just, it was really good.
Yeah, I liked everything about it. It was great, and what I liked about it too is the format really gives the athlete the opportunity to tell the story. A lot of times you watch other documentaries, there's a lot of narration. Maybe the interviewer is getting involved a lot. It was almost 100% the athlete in all of these episodes telling their own story, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and it's something that like I did interviews with like Mo Harris, and like that idea of I remember him telling me that he am I saying his name right? Or am I misremembering? Yeah, Maurice Harris.
You're talking about the heavyweight contender from like the early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean,
from New York, right from here.
Yeah. He's from Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah, he was with the guy. He was with that promotional company that went under.
He's still fighting. Yeah, Boxing 360.
Yeah, he was known for being a really high-level sparring partner for guys like Lennox Lewis.
Yeah. Super intelligent guy, but like he was the first boxer to ever tell me it's embarrassing to get knocked out. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
I've never been knocked out, so I wouldn't know. It's particularly when a bunch of people are watching,
Oh, yeah.
And there's that vulnerability. It's just kind of cool that somebody's kind of honoring the losers, because nobody ever really does in our sport.
No.
I mean, every once in a while, we'll forgive a guy's record, but generally there's kind of just grist for the mill. Like, Christian Favela is not getting in the Hall of Fame, but he's like a good trial horse. There should be a wing for them.
Yeah, man. All right, thanks, guys. I'll try to keep in touch with you on the phone. Great to hear you back again.
Yeah,
all right, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, you take care.
Let's patch in another fight fan here on Leave It in the Ring, Gabriel.
All right, then. 707, you're live on Leave It in the Ring. Hello?
Hello? Are you there? Ooh, we just been Michael Bennett right now.
Yeah, that's 510. You're live on Leave It in the Ring.
Hey, Gabe. Hey, Dave. Friend over in Richmond. How you guys doing?
What's up, man?
Good, man. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. I was looking at while you guys were talking about other stuff in boxing. I was looking at the schedule for April, man. I'm kind of excited about that fight at the Forum, that card that the DAZN's putting on with the Serrano side. That's like a good card, man.
Which
Have
card?
you seen that? It's gonna be at the Forum. It's gonna be Serrano side versus Strada.
Strada, yeah,
Daniel
yeah,
Roman against Doheny and
with
Jesse
Vargas and everybody,
comeback.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good card, man.
Yeah. That's Vargas is what, like fifth trainer that he's gonna have? Is it the fourth or the fifth? I mean, Vargas
try sixth.
Sixth, right, or something like that. I mean, that guy changed his trainers like his canzones, man.
He's going to be a 54 now?
Yeah, 154.
Yeah, junior middleweight.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder what he'll be like as a 54.
Last time I saw him, he was doing announcing for the DAZN. Now I guess, the money's so good, he's going to try to make a comeback, So that's
I actually kind of liked him as a announcer. I thought, like he's a little nervous, but he's a student of the game, I think he could. There. Yeah, I think he's got potential. Doesn't have an annoying voice. I think that's key, But that's a good card for the LA fans.
Yeah, it's at the Forum. I've never been to the Forum. I grew up I was a kid. I was a Lakers fan. I always wanted to go there. I'm thinking about taking a vacation, man, a boxing vacation. Dude. Go that weekend for that fight, and then next week we can go to Vegas for the Canelo fight too, man. I think it's pretty cool, man. But
you gonna be able to afford that in the Canelo fight, dude? Shit, hey, adopt me.
That's what I mean, man. Dude, I'm gonna do a whole week in LA, man. Go broke at Disneyland. I don't know.
I know,
dude.
huh?
Yeah.
I'm holding out for TBA, the World Boxing Super Series. See where that lands. It's at TBA, United States, Saturday, April 27th.
That's going to be somewhere, like New Jersey
Canelo
or
Jacobs
like...
is one that you kind of want to go to,
Yeah.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, I've been in Las Vegas in like 14 years. But anyways, I want to go back to the fights from last week. And, it kind of feels like a shame that Luis Ortiz, that we never got to see like the best of him, dude. 'Cause he's still a pretty good fighter, man. But I wish, is he like 40? I mean, can you imagine if he would, came into the game 10 years ago? What the heavyweight division would look like? Maybe he would have knocked out Fitchko 10 years ago. Like it's just kind of a shame.
Yeah, we might be seeing like the end of his reign right now. As opposed to him just trying to get somebody to fight him.
How did that happen? How come he didn't start his career was he like a defector also or something?
He was.
It seemed like he started his career in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a defector. Yeah, he that's what it was, I mean, I'm not I actually like what I see of him. I mean, I still see he's a dangerous guy. I mean, is he a guy that's going to press you to go like, he must fight Wilder again or Anthony Joshua? No. But is he a guy that's going to make every heavyweight fun? Like, in terms of would you be upset? Let me ask you this: would you be upset hearing Tyson Fury versus Luis Ortiz? I wouldn't.
No.
I actually would be more excited about that fight than hearing him fighting like Joseph Parker or Andy Ruiz, who's part of the top rank, group. I would want to hear that. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of interesting matchups in the heavyweight division, that I wouldn't mind watching. If the top three aren't fighting each other, or say just two of them are fighting each other, there's a lot of other good fights out there. Dillian White, he looked really good in his last fight. I wonder what's going on with him. I'd like to see him up against somebody next too, man. He looked a lot better. Yeah. Against Chisora, So. Yeah,
man. There's a lot of good fights there. I mean, but it goes back with in terms of big fights, like Tyson Fury. I mean, I don't want to see him fighting Andy Ruiz and all that. I'd rather see Andy Ruiz I don't know, Gabriel, how do you feel? Andy Ruiz versus Ortiz. To me, that's a fun fight. You know,
I'd watch that fight.
Yeah, I'd watch that fight. You know, to me, just certain fights that have to be made in order to lead up to see a good fight that you want to see. Because here's the thing: is that normally big fights, bro, and tell me if I'm wrong, but big fights normally don't live up to the hype. It lives up to the dollar bill that you're going to pay, but it doesn't live up to the expectation. That's how big fights normally work. Because when they're very competitive, guys don't really decide to say, hey, man, let me go all balls out. It's more like, hey, man, let me be a little bit more cautious because there's money down the line. But when you have other fights where like, hey, I got to get to this point, they're going to let themselves go. I think that's what made the Wilder and Ortiz fight so special. There were two guys with equal levels in terms of trying to make a statement. You're not going to see that again between those two. If they made a rematch between Wilder and Ortiz, I don't think you're going to see that type of display. Gabriel?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just let you close the door on that one. I'm just looking ahead to this weekend's fights, and in the heavyweight division, I'm just kind of like mixing and matching. Like the fights I want to see, this is the thing though. Anthony Joshua, after he takes care of Big Baby Miller, he's gonna maybe the WBA will force Manuel Shar on him, who holds a version of the WBA belt. But there's Kubrat Pulev, who's got the IBF mandatory spot, and Dillian White, who's pressing, on knocking on Deontay Wilder's door at 1, as well as Anthony Joshua is at number 1 at the WBO and WBC.
Well, I think the difference between Baby Miller versus Anthony Joshua is that here's the difference with Joel Ortiz and Deontay Wilder. You had Deontay Wilder, who you knew didn't hold that pedigree of boxing that we're normally used to. Where Joel Ortiz, who is a guy that's kind of proven himself through the, Cuban amateur rankings that, hey, he can bring it. And he was a puncher. He's a boxer and he's a puncher. We got something that was special. I think where people are leaning with Miller, an American heavyweight, who is slow, sometimes doesn't seem like he's willing to go that extra mile. And then Joshua, who has, but it was against an older warrior, against Latimer Klitschko. So it could be that special heavyweight fight we're looking for, but I don't think we're anticipating that. It just doesn't seem like that. And I don't blame folks. They're not too excited about it at all. Anyways, Fernando, thanks for calling in, man. I really appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
You want to go with
209. 209, you're live on Leaving in the Rain.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Hey, what's up?
All right. This is Troy from Stockton. Every time I call, I don't seem to leave my name and where I'm from. Anyways, I didn't get to watch much boxing this weekend, but I did watch a small portion of that show from Netflix, Losers, and when they talked about that boxer, that was great.
Michael
that
Bennett?
was great. Yeah, that was great. My God, that was. I mean, as I'm watching it, I'm talking to the guy at the same time. It's like, the guy was saying that he never wanted to become a boxer.
Right.
Yeah, and which I could totally relate to that, because the same thing happened with my son. He was getting picked on, and bullied at school, and I had no choice but to put him in boxing, and he did not want to do it at all, to the point where I actually forced him to do it, but it was only so he could defend himself. Anyways, fast forwarded to high school. He's still doing boxing, doesn't want to do it, but he's also doing basketball on the side. And to this day, his jab and his cross is a hell of a lot better than his jump shot. He was a better puncher than he ever was, playing basketball. but it's just something he didn't want to do.
You just weren't Michael Bennett's dad, dude. You didn't just, you know what I mean?
Oh,
you didn't press enough, brother.
I know. I mean, when your son is a Golden Glove champion year after year after year after year, and then man, I mean, talk about. I mean, that's a feat that that not everybody can do. No. But I guess at that level, you got to be super competitive.
I don't know, man. You know what? I think that you know what, you got to be a pretty cold-hearted person to put your kid. And if you've listened to my show, if you watch my YouTube show before my podcast, okay, I used to have my son on. He was like the intro of my YouTube channel, okay. 4 to 6 year old boxing. My kid boxed. At 6 year old, he was sparring 9 to 11-year-old kids. Okay.
Wow.
My kid went to Oxnard, and because we couldn't get fights over here, my kid was stopping other guys at 9 years old. My son was phenomenal, man. My kid was, I've told you, Gabriel. Me and Gabriel had conversations about my son. My son was an it factor. Where me, I fought for years. I was a guy that had to train to have like the perfect left hook, the perfect footwork. Where my son Tristan Duenez, and you could see him on YouTube. If you go under Tristan the Terror 97 Rough, you can see my son, 6-year-old. You just had to show him 1 time, 2 times how to do things, and he understood it. At a very young age, he just understood it. We went to Oxnard, California, which is Oxnard, California. I think anybody from Oxnard would tell you, man, boxing's a religion over there. And he had to fight this kid named Angel. I want to say his last name was Lopez. I can't remember. It was Angel Lopez or something like that, right? And they're at the weigh-in. Dude, they held the weigh-in at an amateur fight like it was a pro fight. And his family was there yelling at my son, telling that kid Angel to kill my son. Kill him, Angel. Mátalo. Chingatalo. And we're talking about 9-year-olds at the time, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Let me rephrase it. My son was 9. That kid was 12. And the reason why we were fighting them, because we went down there, and the kid that my kid was originally supposed to fight, they backed out. So they asked my son if he can fight this kid, and it was going to be a non-exhibition fight, right? And I want to say, I can't remember, but I want to say the kid was like 6 pounds heavier than my kid, okay, at the time. So they did the weigh-in thing, and they got their family yelling and all that. So my son went up, and then I actually wanted to back out. And the guy that was training my son at the time was named Ron Gibson out of Modesto, and he was training. It was called Dynamic Gym at the time. And I was really nervous because my kid, he was little, dude. My boy Tristan was like small. And that kid was like more chunkier, bigger. I want to say he was like 3 or 4, inches taller than him, right? I can't remember. But Ron goes, no, man, he's got it. Trust me. And Ron called Tristan T. He's like, T's got it. He's got it. And I remember I pulled my son aside, dude, and my son goes, Dad, I got it. I can beat him. And my son stopped him in the first round.
Whoa!
Stop that kid in the first round. And the cabron even did a Hollywood shuffle, bro. A Hollywood shuffle during the match, okay? But on the way home, my son tells me, I don't want to box anymore. Off of his best performance. And I looked at him, dude, and you know what? That's how much I love my boy. That's how much I love him. And I said, okay, man. He goes, I want to play soccer, Dad. And I asked him why. And he said, that kid wanted to hurt me. It's just a sport to me.
Oh.
That's the difference, bro. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know, when you see some dads like that guy Michael Bennett, and my sons, they watched that loser thing with me, right? And we sat there, we watched it, and we loved it. All three of us, we loved it, dude. And my son goes, that was the difference. You never you never thought about it as just you. You thought about it, it was us. And there's some dads, man, that don't think about it, dude. Oscar De La Hoya is successful, you know what I mean? Because of the fact of his dad, you know what I mean? There's fighters that are super successful. You know, Jack Mosley, man. Jack Mosley. I met Jack Mosley. I like Jack Mosley. But, dude, the guy only gave a shit about Jack Mosley. Never Shane Mosley. You know?
Oh.
And I think that you have to have a little bit of that, I don't give a fuck. If you're a dad, I just don't give a shit about this kid. You love them, but you love them if they're successful, and you love them if they're not. And I was one of those dads where my whole life, everything that you see that I have right now, bro, like I have a game room. Gabriel can tell you this. He's been in my house. You know, 72-inch goddamn TV, video games. It's for my kids. You know what I mean? It's for my kids. It's very little of what I decide to reward myself. You know, honestly, what I do right now, what we're doing right now, this is what is my reward. You know what I mean? You know, I'm on one of the best podcasts with my best friend, Gabriel Montoya. You know, this is my reward.
Okay. Yeah. So this podcast is pretty cool.
Thank you, brother.
If I don't listen to you guys, if I don't listen to you guys, like, let's say on a Monday, I'll definitely catch up with you guys, like I say, on Saturday and Sunday when I'm doing yard work.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I do. Oh, yeah. No problem. I just wish I had more to say. You know, if I would have watched a lot of boxing.
You're not alone, dude. Hey, you're not alone. I think me and Gabriel said this last week, right, Gabriel? We said, we're like, man, dude, it's very difficult to come on a podcast, and sometimes we have to pull, out of our asses.
That was with me.
Yeah, right.
You watch all the shows.
Yeah, that was with me. What you call it? And part of the reason is this, man. You know, the PVC. It sounds like I'm missing out, but with the PVC, because we had in the past so many bad shows where you have their PVC A side against a PVC D side. I mean, it got to the point now where I'm only going to watch the PVC if it's a matchup I want to see. If it's a matchup I want to see. If it's somebody, like, let's say their A side against somebody that I don't even know, I never heard of, you know, I probably won't watch it. And that's the problem I'm having with the PVC fight. People are telling me, like, hey, Troy, you know, I know you like boxing. Did you watch the fights? I'm like, fights? What fights are you talking about? Oh, the fights on Fox. Oh, no, that's the PVC. I didn't even watch them. You know, but it sounds like I'm missing out because it sounds like they're doing pretty good. So I'm going to have to start catching up on the PVC fights. But for me, honestly, most of the fights I watch are on ESPN Plus, and DAZN. And I'm looking forward to Mikey Garcia and Spence. With DAZN and ESPN Plus, you know, I pretty much get my boxing fix, and it only costs me $15 a month. So I'm really, you know, I really haven't been buying any of the pay-per-views, but this one I might break down and watch. How's the rest of the card look?
That's a good question.
On which card?
Sorry. With Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia and Sam.
Dead silence.
That's a good
silence. Like, what card?
Actually, I looked that up today, and it's not that memorable. I got to tell you that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that fight, but the rest of it, you know, it's kind of like the way we watch fights now. It's a la carte, you know. David Benavidez versus Jalen Love. That's the main support fight. Luis Neri versus McJoe guy's name's a freaking tongue twister. McJoe Arroyo, Louis Neri, Pantera. Bantamweights. That could be an action fight. Chris Arreola versus Jean-Pierre Augustine. Charles Martin versus Gregory Corbin. So we get
are
two
they on the
heavyweights.
pay-per-view card, or are they on, like, let's say, the Fox undercard?
No, that's all the pay-per-view is
pay-per-view.
Oh, the pay-per-view. Okay.
The Charles Martin versus Gregory Corbin is going to be on Fox Sports 1, but the for your money you will get a Chris Arreola fight.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, the nightmare's real.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this.
Are you going to buy that?
Well, I'm thinking about it.
Come on, listen. You're gonna get a nightmare. You can get the nightmare. You're gonna get the nightmare's Ninja Turtle trainer. That's worth it, right?
I don't know, man.
Maybe if they have it at theaters or at a bar.
I'm thinking theaters. I mean, I honestly, for Mikey Garcia and Earl Spence, okay, fine. I would buy a $30 pay-per-view, but I know nowadays they don't charge $30 pay-per-view.
They don't, man.
So
they don't.
They don't. So
I'd rather go to the theater.
I'm going to dress like I'm at Vegas, though, when I go to the theater, I think. Although it's in Texas, so I guess you don't have to dress like it's in Vegas. But,
so that's about what, $20? $20 ain't too bad. It's not too bad.
Movie theater?
Yeah. You know what? I think I might do that. The movie theater, because the way I look
at it.
That's
if they do it, though. That's if they do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's either that or watching on my phone when somebody streams it. But you know what? I think with this fight, I want to watch a nice, clear.
I like the movie theater, man. I gotta tell you, because last time I went to the movie, I went for the Wilder and Tyson, and there was guys that listened to the ring. They showed up. We had a blast. You know,
really?
Popcorn, beer.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, it was fun, man. I had a great time. You know what I mean? Anytime I went to the movie theaters to watch the fight, I have to tell you, the guys that show up at the movie theater, they're boxing fans. They're gonna watch the fight. You know what I mean? So I always have a great time.
Yeah.
There's not a hit and miss when it comes to going to the movie theaters and stuff, But there's definitely a hit and miss if I'm gonna watch it at home. But I'm not gonna pay pay-per-view. There's just no way I'm gonna do that,
Yeah. This is just too much. This is just too much for this type of fight. Now, if Mikey Garcia wins, I would definitely pay to see a Mikey Garcia and Pacquiao pay-per-view. In case it ever happens, that I would.
See, that's what they're trying to sell, though. That's what they're trying to sell. If he wins, that's what they're gonna try to sell. I gotta tell you now. I don't want to see a Pacquiao and Mikey Garcia fight. I really don't. I don't care for it.
I would buy it.
I would buy it. But it depends on how Mikey Garcia looks after Errol Spence is beaten him.
So what chance do you give Mikey Garcia against Errol Spence?
Well, we're going to talk about that next week because we only have 90 seconds left here, brother. So, we're going to let you go, man.
All right. It's all good, man. Thank you, amigos. Thank you for taking my call.
All right,
I'll
almost here, though.
listen to you guys next week. All right, later. Bye.
Yeah, man, I think that the chance we're going to give him. I know. Go ahead. Do the rundown.
We got 1 minute. All right. Friday, March 8th, Royal Albert Hall, London, England. Daniel Dubois, another heavyweight to watch, versus Raz Van Janu, heavyweight. Liam Williams versus Joe Mullender. Johnny Garton versus Chris Jenkins. Anthony Yard versus Travis Reeves. I believe that's a DAZN card. I could be wrong. Saturday, March 9th, Dignity Health Sports Park, Carson, California. Fox Sports 1, Fox. Shawn Porter versus Yordenis Ugas. Francisco Santana versus Abel Ramos. Effie Ajagba versus Amir Mansour, heavyweights. And Juan Carlos Payano takes on Damian Vasquez. That's on Fox Sports 1. And Imantas Stanionis versus Sammy Figueroa, welterweights in action. And then, actually, there's one more card, but I'm just looking to see what channel. I'm pretty sure it's DAZN.
Okay,
Bivol,
so here we go.
Bivol versus Joe Smith, light heavyweights. Maurice Hooker versus Mikkel Lespierre, and Callum Johnson versus Shawnee Monahan, which is a pretty exciting card there in Turning Stone, Verona.
That was a card actually I wanted to talk about. We didn't have any chance though. Anyways, everybody, right? Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Don't drink and drive because you will spill your beer. This is your host, Dave Duenez, with my co-host, Mr. Gabriel Montoya. Till next week.
Peace.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. This is your daily pep talk. I know it's been rough going ever since people found out about your a cappella group, Mad Harmony, but you will bounce back. I mean, you're the guy always helping people find coverage options with the Name Your Price tool. It should be you giving me the pep talk. Now get out there, hit that high note, and take Mad Harmony all the way to nationals this year! Sorry, it's pitchy.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
A career in healthcare doesn't take years to train for. San Joaquin Valley College offers medical training programs that can get you job ready in as few as 9 months. You're invited to the open house at SJVC Modesto on Wednesday, March 13th at 5 p.m. to learn about the hands-on programs in medical assisting, medical office, and pharmacy technology. Tap now to reserve your space for the open house or find us on the web at sjvc.edu. Visit consumerinfo.sjvc.edu for important information on program outcomes.